For our FinTech Spotlight segment this month, we are featuring our sponsor, Breeze, an affordable disability insurance solution that is disrupting the industry by making the process fast and easy. I've invited the CEO and co-founder of Breeze, Colin Nabity, to tell us more about this important family income protection solution. And we're also going to explain why people need disability insurance in the first place. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Hey, Andy. Thanks a ton for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right into the 101 of disability insurance. What is disability insurance?
Yeah, so disability insurance in its easiest form is insurance for your paycheck. In the event that you become too sick to work, regardless of whether that is something that happens on or off the job, disability insurance pays a monthly benefit to help keep you on your feet. It's a financial safety net that can be used to put food on the table, continue your mortgage payment, continue contributing to retirement funds, whatever you want to do with that monthly benefit. That's really up to you.
Got it. So let's talk about who might need disability insurance. Is this for people who have their own small businesses? Is this for employees at companies? Who's this for?
Yeah, it's really for American workers that would be suffering a financial catastrophe in the event that something happened where they couldn't earn an income. So nobody wakes up in the morning and thinks, man, I want to buy insurance and I want to buy as much of it as I possibly can. And, the goal is to get to a point where you're financially stable enough to not need it. But it's really a solution for those that are most financially vulnerable, where if something were to happen, it would be financially catastrophic.
Got it. Can you talk to me about the difference between short-term disability and long-term disability and how your solution fits in there?
Yeah, so short-term disability typically covers anywhere from 1 to 3 months worth of payments. Disability insurance is made up of 3 different pieces. The elimination period, or waiting period, you'll hear it called, which is the amount of time you have to wait until you receive your first paycheck in the mail from the insurance carrier. The second thing is the benefit amount. How much is that paycheck going to be? And then the third piece of that is the benefit period. So how long are you going to continue to receive those paychecks? So short-term disability insurance typically has really short waiting periods, anywhere from 7 days to 14 days to 21 days. They'll pay up to 3 months, whereas long-term disability insurance is really meant to kind of cover for the longer term things that happen. The goal is that most people have some kind of emergency fund or savings fund to kind of get them through the short period, and then they have a long-term policy that protects them on the back end if that disability continues to keep you out of work.
Could you give me an example of why somebody might need a long-term disability insurance? So, for example, like what might have happened in their lives where they're going to need something like this? Is it for, a broken leg? Or, talk to me about, like, what's a typical situation where somebody might get this?
Sure. So I think that's one of the misconceptions about disability insurance in general, or just disabilities in general. Most people think, hey, I'm going to have this catastrophic thing happen to me, like a broken leg or, a car crash or something like that. But, when you look at arthritis, degenerative back issues that, may start small, but eventually turn into something big that, may keep you bedridden, cancer, all the kind of things that you just don't think of. I think that's one of the traps of young people is feeling invincible or feeling, hey, I'm healthy enough that I don't need this. And it's something that's true in the life insurance space too. But most of things that take you out of work really are not those catastrophic events that people think aren't going to happen.
Yeah. How long could somebody be covered? Like, let's say, for example, I'm a podcaster by trade now, and I have something that affects my voice, and I'm not able to do my work anymore, or I'm not able to type anymore because of arthritis. How long can I be covered for a policy with long-term disability insurance?
Yeah, so the great thing about disability insurance policies is they're really flexible. You can get a policy that will pay out for as little as a year. You can get a policy that will pay you all the way out to retirement age. You can kind of figure out what fits best. The average, when you look at all of the disability insurance statistics or claims, the average disability will keep you out of work for about 2 years. So the majority of policies that we're selling are in between that 2 and 5 year range, because it's a really good protection for for the average amount of time that most people are out of work. But I mean, there's a lot of people in higher income occupations that are, buying things all the way to age 65, and they want to be protected in the event that something extremely catastrophic happens.
Yeah, you mentioned life insurance earlier, and obviously, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I feel like you hear about life insurance more than you do about disability insurance. Why is that, and why is that maybe a flawed thing?
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier to understand. Like there's no arguing life insurance. If somebody dies, you get a benefit. It's very black and white. I think disability insurance sometimes is a little confusing to people when it's really not. But when you look at the disability insurance statistics, the Social Security Administration every few years does a study, and what they've consistently found over the last 20 years is that at every single point during your working career, whether you're 25 or 60, you are significantly more likely to become disabled than you are to die. And so if you think about that, more people are financially prepared to die than they are if something happens, but they don't die. So it's a huge gap. It's something that's not talked about, but it's definitely something that, if you're considering life insurance and you are dependent on somebody, either yourself or somebody in your household to earn an income to make sure that you are financially stable, you absolutely need to be considering disability insurance as well.
So it's not necessarily more important than life insurance, but it is more probable than to need it.
Yeah, it's definitely more probable, and I wouldn't say it's more important. You're talking about two totally different risks, right? It's the risk of mortality versus the risk of morbidity, right? So both of them are extremely important. So yeah, definitely I would not recommend substituting one for the other.
Okay. Let's talk about the typical employee. So I'm working at a 9-to-5 job. Wouldn't this be covered by my employer, something like this?
Yeah, so it depends on who your employer is. The bigger the organization, the more likely they are to provide some kind of disability insurance benefit. If you work for a smaller employer, they may not. But when you look at the overall trends of the workforce here in the United States, there's a huge shift from how people are engaging in the working economy. 50% of the entire working economy by 2028 is supposed to be, freelancing or doing independent contract work. And those are people that are on their own for health insurance or on their own for, life, disability, all the things. And with everything going on right now in a global pandemic, I think that it's just going to accelerate people that are interested in going out on their own. There's more tools today than there have ever been to be successful at it. There's more marketplaces than there's ever been to be successful at it. So, it's definitely something to take advantage of if you have it from an employer. But there's a really big market and need for it outside of, kind of the traditional employer space.
Got it. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was, thinking about my situation. I've transitioned out of a larger employer that had a lot of these types of benefits. I'm not sure exactly what they had with regard to long-term disability, but I know that I don't have it right now. So it's something that's popping up in my mind as we're talking through this. So I wanted to get a little bit more information about, the typical worker. So what's the difference between disability insurance and then workers' compensation, and how does that fit in?
Yep. So workers' compensation is going to cover injuries and illness that occur on the job. And when you look at the overall body of claims, again, roughly 1% of all disability claims in the United States in any given year is related to something that happens on the job. And so disability insurance, and it'll cover anything that happens both on and off the job. So that doesn't matter if it's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday and it's work related, or, something that, again, we'll go back to catastrophic that happens over the weekend when you're driving in your car, or an issue that has been stemming for years that kind of just gets continually worse and it takes you out. So it's a more comprehensive coverage than workers' comp. And so those are kind of the main differences.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk about how Breeze fits into this solution. How do you guys differentiate yourself, and how are you making a name for yourself in the disability insurance industry?
Yeah, so the insurtech space, there's been a lot of changes over the last years. The idea of being able to apply and get covered for an insurance policy completely online is still relatively new. Over the last couple of years, we've seen it played out in the life insurance space, but there's, with health records becoming digitized, with, technology just progressing, the ways that insurance carriers and companies can do underwriting, all of that is in the midst of a pretty fundamental change. And so, the traditional insurance process inside of disability is, typically sitting down with an agent or somebody that is walking you through a policy. You fill out a paper application. That gets sent in the mail to the insurance carrier. Somebody's going to come out to your house to do, a paramed to take your height and weight and blood draw and maybe a urinalysis. Gets sent back to the lab. 6 weeks later, you've got a decision on whether the insurance carrier wants to cover you or not. And it's a really archaic process. And so what we do is we're pulling a lot of different data sets, both on you and about people that look like you. So when you come through, you can answer about 5 questions. We don't ask any personal information, give you a quote or a pretty accurate rate right there on the spot. And then it takes about 10 minutes to go through our application, where we'll ask, your lifestyle habits, your health history, just wanting to get to know a little bit more about you. But we are pulling data sets to do our risk assessment right there on the spot. So at the end of it, if you're healthy and everything checks out, you're walking away and shutting your laptop with a policy number and coverage right there on the spot. So it's pretty transformational. Nobody's done it in the disability insurance space yet. We're all about making things frictionless and trying to bring what is a really archaic industry, kind of into, the 21st century with everything else that we deal with on our phones.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's news, or that's good news to a lot of people listening. We got a lot of people in their, 20s, 30s, and 40s that are listening to the show. They're like, I don't have time for all that process. I've got little kids. I got to get my stuff done at home, and I got to make this thing happen. So talk to me about how much it costs. Like, what can somebody expect to, you talked about this 2 to 5 year range being the most popular for you guys. What can somebody expect to pay for something like that?
Yeah. So our policy started at about $9 a month. If you're healthy, everything checks out. You can come through and get $1,000 benefits, for a couple years at a relatively competitive price. You can scale it all the way up if you're looking for, more coverage. It obviously gets more expensive. The things that influence the cost of insurance in general are, your age, your gender, and disability. It's how much of your income that you're looking to cover, but it's a lot less expensive, I think, than most people think.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very competitive, and the fact that it fits in to the plan of protecting yourself, almost the probability, at least, that we're talking about more than life insurance is eye-opening for me, at least. So let's talk about, like, let's say I need to have a claim. Like, let's say something happens to me. How does that process work? Do we call you guys? What happens?
Yep. So we have a team over here that handles claims. There's a form that you need to fill out, but what we do is we get a little information from your employer, and then get a little bit information from your physician as well that says, hey, you're too sick or you can't work. And so it's a relatively easy claims process, and it's just a matter of collecting information to file that claim.
Okay, great. And then I just start to receive checks after a little while from the insurance company?
Yeah, the claims process can take a couple weeks, but then depending on what your waiting period is, if it's 30 days, if it's 60 days, if it's 90 days, whatever that is, you'll start receiving your checks after that point. Okay,
great. Well, this show's all about protecting families and keeping that peace of mind, so this is a really important conversation. I do want to ask you one question before we wrap up, Colin, is, you guys are a newer company, and as you said, there's been companies that have been doing this for a really long time, and maybe they have, a reputation. How can newer users or new people who are going to consider you guys be assured that you guys are a reputable company where they're, even if at $9 a month, that they know that they're going to receive the result?
Yep. So we've partnered with Assurity and Munich Re. Assurity is one of the highest rated insurance carriers in the country. Really, really strong disability insurance product. But then Munich Re as well, which is one of the largest global reinsurers. So you're technically buying a policy from Assurity that's backed by the largest global reinsurer. So in the event that something were to happen to us, which is extremely unlikely, your policy doesn't go away.
Got it. So you guys are a newer fintech company partnering with a solid life insurance partner. That makes a lot of sense. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Colin, where is the best place for people to learn more about Breeze and consider signing up for a policy?
Yeah, so you can check us out online at meetbreeze.com. Again, it takes about 5 seconds to get your to get your rate. And we've got a lot of really good information, on the site on what disability insurance is, how to think about structuring a policy. So hopefully it's a lot of educational value to your listeners.
Excellent. Well, Colin, I know I'm going to go to the site right after this and check out how much my policy would be and see if it's a good fit for my family. So I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise, Andy. I really appreciate you having me on here. Thanks.